They're remaking Poltergeist. Fuck! Hey Internet, it's Friday, and you know what that means. I'm back with a little more opinion for your ass. I'm going to keep it short and concise this week with a look at the still doing the festivals indie horror Found. But first, a bit of the hotness. So we had two trailers dropped this week, and the first one that I want to mention is Ben Wheatley's latest picture, A Field in England. Wheatley has only recently come to my attention where everybody's telling me I gotta see a movie called Kill List. I have not seen it, but it looks fantastic, and it's getting a lot of great hype out there. It seems to be a hybrid of horror and Brit crime, which is perfectly okay with me. This latest one, it's unclear what it's actually about. The official word out of film festivals seems to be something about a bunch of soldiers from the British Civil War who are captured by an alchemist, and they're taken to a field in England where they eat a bunch of magic mushrooms and then go crazy. Wheatley seems to be worth mentioning because he's almost like a British analog of Alex Cox, in that his pictures have this very high degree of insanity and nihilism and psychedelia and paranoia, and this latest one looks like it is no exception. So up next is the trailer for La Danza De La Realidad, which is the latest picture from the director Alejandro Jodorowsky. I think I'm saying that right. He is a director that if you're watching this right now, you know exactly who he is. He is a director responsible for El Topo and The Holy Mountain and Son of Sangre, which is like one of my favorite movies of all time. And this picture is his latest one since 1990's The Rainbow Thief. And since then, he's had a bunch of movies that he's attempted to make, and they never get very far off the ground. It's kind of a common thread with him. He's an uncompromising filmmaker. His ideas are absolutely crazy, and they seem to be very expensive. His last one was a picture called King Shot, which just looked like it was finally going to happen, and then it died. Quite frankly, I mean, the guy is getting on in years, and I sort of thought that was going to be his last attempt, but he's back with this latest one, which is unfortunately very hard to follow in this trailer because it's in Spanish and the subtitles are in French, which does not help us Americans at all unless you speak Spanish or French very well. This movie is said to be sort of an autobiography of Jodorowsky's life in Chile, and it looks just as insane and just as weird as anything else that he's made in his time. A lot of the imagery in the trailer really brings to mind some of the stuff from Son of Sangre. You can see it if you're familiar with the movie. You'll recognize it. This is very exciting. I'm very happy about this, and I really can't wait to see this one. And now, Found. So, full disclosure time before I get moving on this. The movie Found is adapted from a novel by an author named Todd Rigney, who used to write a blog called The Film Fiend. When Cinema Suicide was just a blog and it was new, he was one of the first blogs that I linked up with and followed on a regular basis. And we have emailed back and forth and followed each other's sites for some time. So just know going into this that he and I have a sort of previous relationship of some sort. And you know, when I review product, like even if you're my friends, I'm still going to give you an honest review, and that's what I intend to do here. Found is about Marty, who is a pretty ordinary 12-year-old boy living in Anytown, USA, except that his older brother Steve, is a serial killer with a thing for keeping decapitated heads in a bowling ball bag in his closet. But in spite of this really fucked up secret, Marty manages to live a painfully ordinary life. He's bullied at school. He has parents who are characteristically clueless, as parents of adolescent kids tend to be. And he loves horror movies. But the problem in Marty's life is that he's losing control of a very fragile situation in his house. His only friend bails on him, and tensions between his brother and his parents are tightening to a point where the awful secret is just bound to come to light. Found is being paraded around the festival circuit as a horror movie, and it's difficult to contest that claim. It's definitely a horror movie, it's just a different kind of horror movie. You know, you have your slashers and your schlock movies, your paranormal and your horror monster movies, and you've got the stuff out on the fringes that frames everything up in a very realistic fashion. It's almost out to just piss you off or upset you. But Found doesn't really have much in common with either of those camps. It's definitely a horror movie, it's just a very different kind of horror movie. The horror of Found lurks in the margins. There's a source of inevitability that underscores the entire movie. It's like watching an oncoming collision that you can see coming a mile away, but you're powerless to do anything about. There's also a tangible series of family relationships in Found that are all bound to come crashing down by the film's end. And it all takes place in the suburbs, which is an easy setting for Americans to connect with. It's a very vague sort of horror that takes place in a very recognizable location. There's also a very heavy nostalgia factor at work in Found, where horror fans of a certain age are going to recognize scenes of Marty hungrily racing through the aisles of his neighborhood video store to rent a series of videotapes. Videotapes, for crying out loud. For an evening of sleepover horror movie magic that so many of us are probably familiar with. There's also a lot of horror movie visual cues scattered through the movies, where the bedrooms of Steven and Marty are kind of decorated with horror movie posters and heavy metal band posters. There's also the matter of the movie within a movie, Headless, which plays a very pivotal role in the unfurling of the plot. But it also reminds of that one movie that was probably so extreme for you and so intense that it was the game changer in the evolution of your horror fandom. Found falters, unfortunately, in the third act. With all this excellent plot build-up and character development, that it all comes to a head as Marty's world is beginning to cave in around him. There's a sort of racially charged angle that's forgotten about as quickly as it's introduced, and the sort of plunge into madness is a little sudden. It's so sudden, in fact, that it's jarring. The violence that takes place in Marty's house is also a little out of step with the first two-thirds of the movie. Marty's home life seems to be mostly pleasant, where his parents are actually okay people, and then all of a sudden things turn violent and ugly, and it doesn't exactly work with what up to this point has been a pretty organic horror movie. Found looks like a movie that was made on a very decent indie movie budget. Technically speaking, it's a very well-made movie. The practical special effects in particular, the severed heads, usually the most expensive and the most difficult effect to pull off convincingly, look amazing. And what's most amazing about this movie is that it was made for $8,000. $8,000! This extremely original and very effective horror movie was made for the price of a used car. What's unfortunate is that Found is a little hard to find. It's playing only in film festivals right now. There's no video on demand, there's no DVD, there's no Blu-ray release as far as I know. But if it's playing in your area, you gotta see it. Take it from me. Keep your eye out for home video releases at the very least. You're sure to love it. So what did you think? Have you seen Found? Let me know down in the comments. And tell me what I should review next. As always, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you next Friday. Bitches leave.